I sat parked outside the downtown bank, engine idling, staring at the glass doors. In less than 10 minutes, I was going to make a decision that would make my son call me selfish, maybe even cruel. I didn't look cruel. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Now hit that like button if you enjoy stories. And let me tell you how this all started, because sometimes the best revenge is just letting people reveal exactly who they really are. I looked like a 68-year-old woman with steady hands on the steering wheel and a lifetime of quiet sacrifices behind her. The heater hummed against my ankles. My phone lay face up on the passenger seat. No messages. Not yet. Connor doesn't know I'm here, I thought. And for the first time in decades, I was about to do something without asking myself how it would affect him. I raised Connor alone after his father died when he was 12. I still remember the way he clung to me at the funeral, promising he'd take care of Mom when he grew up. For years, he did. He shoveled the driveway without being asked. He worked part-time in high school so he wouldn't need expensive sneakers. He used to leave notes in my purse on payday that said, "You're the strongest person I know." That's the boy I raised. Somewhere along the way, that boy disappeared. He's 43 now, married 6 years to Sienna. She's polished, charming, always camera ready, the kind of woman who hugs you tightly in public, but checks her reflection in the microwave door while doing it. She works in lifestyle marketing, brand launches, curated retreats, filtered posts about designing your dream life. In the beginning, she told me I was inspiring, called me resilient, said Connor was lucky to have such a strong mother. Then came the wedding. 300 guests, mountain resort, imported florals, drone videography. Connor insisted they could afford it. 2 months later, he asked if I could help cover part of their honeymoon, 3 weeks in a private villa overseas. Just this once, Mom. It was never just once. A furnace emergency, a car issue, a vet bill, always temporary, always urgent. I helped because that's what mothers do, and because I believed sacrifice would teach gratitude. Last Sunday dinner, something shifted. Sienna was scrolling through photos of a friend's lake cottage, cedar dock, hot tub steaming against mountain air. "We deserve something like this," she said lightly. Connor glanced at me, just a flicker, a silent calculation. $400,000, she added casually. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. I felt something drop inside my chest. Not jealousy, not anger, entitlement. After that, I started noticing things I'd ignored before. Designer handbags, a new watch, furniture delivered weekly, expensive wine opened without ceremony. Then came the credit card statement. $12,000. Luxury home decor, designer retailers, custom audio equipment. When I called him, he sounded annoyed, not ashamed. "I'll pay you back, Mom, relax." He didn't, and when I later heard whispers about an $85,000 Audi for Sienna's birthday, something inside me went still. That Tuesday morning outside the bank, I wasn't just closing an account, I was closing access to my money, to my silence, to the version of motherhood that kept enabling him. I opened the car door and stepped into the cold air, because in 10 minutes I was going to choose myself, and I had no idea how hard he was about to fall when I did. I should have known the Audi conversation was coming. What I didn't expect was how easily my son would ask me for $30,000, like he was borrowing a lawn chair for the weekend. He called on a Thursday evening, too cheerful, too prepared. "Hey, Mom, got a minute?" I muted the television. "Always." There was a pause, the kind that sounds rehearsed. "Sienna's turning 40 in June," he began. "I want to do something big." I didn't help him. I let the silence stretch. "There's this Audi Q7 she's been looking at, fully loaded. It's about 85. $85,000. He said it lightly, like 8,500, like it was reasonable. like it was expected. And? I asked. I can finance most of it. I just need help with the down payment. $30,000 would cover it. $30,000. That was nearly half of what sat in the joint savings account. Money I'd built slowly after selling my house. Money meant for condo fees, property tax, unexpected medical bills. Security. The cushion that let me sleep at night. And the $12,000 on my credit card? I asked. A small exhale, almost embarrassment. I told you I'd handle that. You haven't. It's just, things got tight. Tight. I pictured the designer watch he wore last Christmas, the custom media room speakers, the catered birthday dinner for Sienna's friend. Mom, he added quickly, and his voice softened, the old tone, the one he used when he scraped his knees as a child. I just want to show up for her. Her parents do these huge gestures. I can't look like I'm failing. There it was. Not greed. Not exactly. Fear. I remembered him at 15, insisting on paying for his own prom ticket because he didn't want to be a burden. The shift between that boy and this man felt like whiplash. Connor, I said carefully, do you want this car or do you want her approval? That's not fair. No, I replied. What's not fair is assuming my retirement fund is your emergency lever every time your pride feels threatened. He went quiet. I knew I could count on you, he said finally. That one hurt, because he wasn't wrong. He always could. Until now. I'll think about it, I said. But inside, something had already settled. Not anger. Clarity. If I said yes, the Audi would be delivered, there would be champagne at the dealership, photos posted, gratitude brief and glowing, and 6 months later, there would be something else. There is always something else. After we hung up, I walked to my desk and opened my calendar. June 14th, her birthday. 3 days before that, I had an appointment at the bank. And when Connor tried to transfer that down payment, he wasn't going to find gratitude. He was going to find an empty account. And that was when the real phone calls would begin. The bank appointment took 17 minutes. 17 calm, professional minutes to undo 6 years of quiet enabling. The advisor turned her monitor toward me. You'd like to close the joint savings and move the balance? Yes. All $63,000. Money I'd built after selling my house, money earned one cautious choice at a time, money meant for condo fees, rising utilities, prescriptions I might need one day, the cushion between independence and vulnerability. She clicked twice. Done. Just like that, Connor no longer had access. Next, I removed him as an authorized user on my credit card. Would you like to keep the account open? She asked. Yes, but block it for now. If there was going to be a storm, I wasn't leaving any windows open. When I stepped back into the parking lot, the wind caught my jacket. I expected to feel shaky. I didn't. I felt steady. 2 days later, right on schedule, my phone rang. Connor. I let it ring once before answering. Mom? He said, and I could hear the tightness immediately. There's something wrong with the savings account. Oh? I tried to transfer the down payment. It says the account is closed. It is. Silence. Not confusion. Shock. You closed it? He said slowly. Yes. Why would you do that? I already told the dealership the transfer was coming. I signed the paperwork. They're waiting. You shouldn't have promised money that wasn't yours. You said you'd think about it. His voice cracked slightly. I was counting on you. There it was. Not authority. Dependence. You did think about it, I replied, and I decided I'm not funding this. You made me look like an idiot, he snapped. Sienna was standing right there. I didn't make you promise $30,000 you didn't have. His breathing grew louder, faster. She's going to think I lied to her. Did you? Silence again. Then I heard movement on the other end, a shift, a presence. Put it on speaker, Sienna's voice said, controlled but tight. A second later, her tone changed, smooth and corporate. Dorothy, she began, I just want to clarify something. We were operating under the understanding that you were supporting this milestone celebration. An understanding, I said evenly, is not a confirmation. Her voice hardened slightly. This puts Connor in an extremely uncomfortable position. The dealership ran financing projections. They're expecting the funds today. Then perhaps they should expect them from the buyer. A pause, longer this time. This feels punitive, she said carefully. If there's a concern, we could have had a collaborative conversation. Collaborative, as if my retirement fund were a shared business asset. I'm not funding the car, not now, not ever. The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long moment. Then my hand began to tremble. Not from doubt, from adrenaline. I walked to the kitchen sink and turned on the tap, letting cold water run over my wrist. My pulse thudded hard against my skin. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't controlled. It wasn't diplomatic. It was Sienna, and whatever restraint she'd been performing before was gone. When Sienna called back, she didn't bother with pleasantries. You had no right to do that. No warmth, no corporate phrasing, just sharp edges. I had every right, I said calmly. It's my account. That's not the point, she snapped. You let him believe you were helping. I told him I would think about it, and you knew what that meant to him. There it was, not a misunderstanding, expectation. He's devastated, she continued. Do you understand what you just did? He had to stand there while the sales manager asked if there was an issue with the transfer. I pictured Connor in that showroom, bright lights, polished floors, a ribbon on the hood of a car he couldn't afford. I didn't put him there, I said. You humiliated him. No, I refused to fund something he can't afford. Her voice sharpened further. The control was slipping now. This isn't about affordability. This is about support. Parents support their children. My son is 43. And that means what? She shot back. You just stop being his mother? I took a slow breath. Being his mother doesn't mean underwriting his lifestyle. A bitter laugh escaped her. This isn't lifestyle, it's stability. Image matters, reputation matters. To whom? To people who don't settle, she said flatly. There it was, the worldview, unfiltered. Connor works hard, he deserves to feel successful, and instead you made him look small. I didn't make him promise money he didn't have. You could have told us earlier. You could have asked before signing paperwork. Silence, but not the heavy kind, the charged kind. You've always had control over him, she said suddenly. That one caught me off guard. I beg your pardon? You like being needed, you like holding the purse strings. This was about power. I felt my spine straighten. No, I said quietly, this was about boundaries. She inhaled sharply, then lowered her voice. You've just created a wedge between us. No, I replied, you've created a wedge by expecting what isn't yours. There was movement in the background, Connor's voice low and tense. Sienna, stop. No, she snapped at him, not to me. She needs to hear this. And that was the moment something shifted. Not in me, in him, because for the first time I heard it. Fatigue, embarrassment, cracks. Maybe we shouldn't have assumed, Connor muttered quietly. She went silent for half a second, stunned. Excuse me? She said slowly. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have told the dealership it was done. The air changed. This is unbelievable, she said coldly. You're taking her side? I'm not taking sides, he replied, weaker now. You promised me. And I shouldn't have. Silence, a long one. Then she spoke, and her voice was no longer angry. It was icy. Fine. The call ended. Not slammed, not shouted, just ended. I stared at the wall across my living room. Something had cracked, and it wasn't me. Because humiliation fades, but when illusion breaks inside a marriage, that doesn't repair so easily.
And the next time Connor called me, he wasn't asking for money, he was asking for somewhere to go.
Connor didn't call that evening. He texted, "Can I come by?" No explanation, no emoji, just that. I stared at the message for a long moment, thumb resting on the edge of my phone. My pulse thudded faintly in my temple. "When?" I typed back. "Now." He arrived 20 minutes later. No overnight bag, no suitcase, just him. His shoulders looked smaller somehow, shirt wrinkled, hair pushed back like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. I opened the door. "What happened?" I asked. He exhaled hard and stepped inside. "She told me to leave." The words weren't dramatic, they were flat. I closed the door slowly. "Leave for the night?" I asked. "I don't know." He walked into the living room and sat down without waiting to be invited, elbows on knees, staring at the floor. "It blew up after the call," he said. "She said I embarrassed her, that I made her look unstable in front of the dealership, that people talk." People talk. I said nothing. "She said if I can't provide at that level, then I shouldn't have let her believe I could." His jaw tightened. "I told her I thought we could work through it. Maybe delay the car, maybe look at something more reasonable." "And?" He let out a short laugh that didn't sound amused. "She said I was thinking small." Silence filled the room, not hostile, just heavy. "And then?" I asked gently. "She said maybe I'm not the man she thought I was." There it was. Not about the car, not about money, identity. He rubbed his hands together, restless. "She said I've always leaned on you, that I run to you whenever things get uncomfortable, that I'm still a kid with a safety net." That one hit him harder than the rest, I could see it. I crossed my arms loosely, not defensive, just steady. "And are you?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. "I don't know," he said finally. "Maybe." That honesty surprised me. "What did you say when she asked you to leave?" I asked. "I told her I wasn't leaving my house." "And?" "She said it feels like her house more than mine anyway." That landed. Deep. I watched him absorb that. "Mom," he said quietly, "I didn't think it would get this far." "That's usually how patterns end," I replied softly. "They don't fade, they snap." He leaned back against the couch and stared at the ceiling. "She said something else." "What?" "She said if I can't give her the life she signed up for, she'll find someone who can." The air shifted. There it was. The real threat. Not status. Replacement. He swallowed hard. "I don't even know if this is about the Audi anymore." "It never was," I said. He looked at me then, really looked. "I thought if I just kept saying yes, she'd stay happy." "And are you?" He didn't answer. A long pause passed between us. "I don't want to move back in," he said quickly, almost defensively. "I'm not asking for that." "Good, because I wouldn't have offered it." "You can stay tonight, but this isn't an escape hatch." He nodded slowly. "I know." I studied him for a moment. "Connor," I said carefully, "are you here because you lost the car, or because you might lose the marriage?" His eyes watered slightly, not full tears, just the start of something. "I don't know which one scares me more." That told me everything. He wasn't transformed, he wasn't enlightened, he was destabilized. And destabilized people don't make clean decisions, they reach. For comfort, for validation, for the nearest person who won't reject them. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees again. "What if she's right?" he asked quietly. "What if I am still just leaning on you?" I didn't rush to reassure him, because reassurance is another kind of rescue. Instead, I said, "Then this is the moment you learn how not to." He went quiet. Upstairs, the guest room waited. Downstairs, the pattern had finally cracked. But cracks don't mean collapse. Sometimes they mean exposure. And the next morning, he was going to have to decide whether he wanted to repair the illusion or finally see it clearly. The first morning after something breaks is always quiet. Connor didn't sleep. I heard him pacing in the guest room sometime after 2. Floorboards creaked, a door opened, closed, then silence, thick enough to feel through the walls. At 7, I made coffee. When he came downstairs, he looked like someone who had aged overnight. Same clothes, same shoes, phone already in his hand like it might rescue him. "Did she call?" I asked. He shook his head. "I texted," he said. "Just, can we talk?" "And?" She read it. He stared at the screen again, jaw tight. Part of him still expected her to fix this. At 8:12, his phone buzzed. He flinched before picking it up. He read the message once, then again. His mouth flattened. "What did she say?" I asked. "She said she needs space," he replied, "that she doesn't feel secure with someone who can't operate at her level." Operate, like marriage was a corporate ladder. There was more. I could see it in the way his shoulders tightened. "She said her parents are disappointed," he added. Ah, that landed harder. "And she said if I want to fix this, I need to show her I can step up." "What does that mean?" I asked. She didn't spell it out. She didn't need to. He began pacing, same restless loop from the night before. "I could still get something," he muttered. "Maybe not the Audi, but something decent, just to show I'm serious." Serious about what? That I'm not small. There it was again. Small. He stopped pacing suddenly and sat down hard in the chair like his legs gave out beneath him. "She said she told her friends about the Audi," he added quietly. "Her parents. Everyone knew. Public image. Now it made sense. She said she can't look unstable, that she built a certain life and she won't apologize for wanting more." He rubbed his face with both hands. "I didn't even know we were competing," he said. "You weren't. You were performing." He looked up at that, not defensive this time, just tired. At 9:03, his phone rang. This time, she called. He stepped into the hallway, but I could still hear her tone, smooth at first. "I'm not attacking you," she said. "I'm just being realistic. I can't build a future on hesitation." His voice was low. "I'm trying." "No," she replied, sharper now. "You're reacting. I need someone who leads." A pause. Then softer, more dangerous. "Connor, I didn't marry someone who shrinks." That word again. Shrinks. He didn't respond immediately. "Come home," she said. "We need to see if this still works." He came back into the kitchen after the call. "He wants to talk," he said. "And?" "I don't know if I'm going back to fix something or to prove something." That was new. He stared at his reflection in the dark screen of his phone for a long second before locking it. "I almost told her I'd find the money," he admitted quietly, "just to stop this." "But you didn't." "No." He picked up his keys slowly. "If she leaves," he started, then stopped. I didn't rescue the sentence for him. "I won't fund a lifestyle," I said evenly, "but I won't abandon my son." He nodded, not comforted, just steadied. When the door closed behind him, I stood in the quiet kitchen, listening to the echo of it. Yesterday, he was panicking about a car. Today, he was questioning who he is inside his own marriage. And when someone starts asking that question, the answer rarely keeps everything intact. By noon, I would know which way he chose. Connor didn't come back by noon. He came back at 4:37. I know because I had been pretending not to watch the clock. When the door opened, he stood there for a second before stepping in, like he wasn't sure which version of himself was walking through it. "Well," I said, softer than I meant to. He didn't answer right away. He dropped his keys on the table and stayed standing. "She wasn't yelling," he said finally. "That told me more than shouting would have. She was calm. Too calm."
He ran a hand over his face. He was calm, too calm. He ran a hand over his face. We talked at the kitchen island, he continued. She had her laptop open, didn't close it, just kept tapping the edge of it while I was talking. I could picture it, controlled, composed. She said this isn't about the Audi, he went on. It's about where we're headed. She asked me what kind of life I think we're building. And what did you say? I asked, but not sharply. I said I thought we were building it together. He gave a tired, almost embarrassed smile. She said that's the problem, that I keep waiting instead of leading. I let that sit. She said she doesn't want to feel like she married someone cautious, that she watched her dad take risks, grow, expand, and she won't apologize for wanting more. More, I repeated quietly. He nodded. Yeah, more, always more. He sat down hard, like something had diven out. I asked her something. What? I asked if she'd still want to be with me if I never bought another luxury car. Silence stretched between us. She didn't answer, he said before I could speak. She just started talking about standards, about alignment, about not shrinking. Shrinking. The word again. He stared at the floor. She said she told her parents about the Audi, her friends too, that backing out makes us look unstable. Us. She asked if he understood what that does to her credibility. Credibility. Not trust, not love. He felt like I was in a job interview, he muttered, like I was pitching my future. I didn't ask another question this time. I just watched him. She said if I can't match her momentum, she needs to rethink things, he added, not screaming, just laying it out. And what did you do? I asked finally. I told her I'm tired. That surprised me. Tired of what? Tired of chasing something I can't even define. Tired of thinking one more purchase will fix the gap. He looked up at me. I almost told her I'd take out a personal loan, he admitted, just to calm it down. But you didn't. No. What stopped you? He hesitated. You did, he said quietly. I kept hearing you say I'd just be buying time. That wasn't wisdom. That was echo. She said she's staying at her parents' place for a few days, said we need space to evaluate if this still works. Works. Like a contract. He pulled out his phone. She sent one more message after I left. He handed it to me. Think carefully about the kind of future you want. No hearts, no anger, just pressure. What are you going to do? I asked, but this time not as an interrogation, as a fact. He stared at the message. Then slowly he opened another screen, the dealership email, the pending order. He hovered over it. He hasn't canceled it yet, he said. That was the real tension, not her words, his next action. He looked up at me. If I cancel this, there's no going back to how it was. No, I said, there isn't. He stared at the screen again, and for the first time since this started, he wasn't asking me what I thought. He was deciding whether he could live without the performance. His thumb moved, and then the email disappeared.
The cancellation didn't feel dramatic. It felt final. Connor stared at the confirmation email on his screen, not blinking, not reacting, just absorbing it. Audi order, canceled. Deposit, voided. No fireworks, no explosion, just a quiet end to something that had almost defined him. His phone buzzed 10 minutes later. He didn't need to look at the name. His shoulders tightened before he even unlocked it. She knows, he said. What did she say? I asked. He read it silently first. She asked why I made a decision like that without talking to her. He gave a tired, almost disbelieving exhale. And? She said this proves I act out of fear. Fear. The word hung there. His phone buzzed again, another message. Longer this time. He handed it to me. I can't keep lowering my expectations because you're uncomfortable with growth. I told my parents we were moving forward. I defended you. I believed in us.
That last sentence was new, personal, not corporate. He swallowed. She never says that part out loud, he muttered, the defending me part. That one hurt more than the others. Before I could respond, another message came through. Are you choosing this? 3 words. Simple, clean, loaded. He stared at the screen for a long time. I don't even know what this means, he said quietly. It means reality, I replied, softer than before. He typed, stopped, deleted, typed again. Finally, I'm choosing to stop pretending. He didn't hit send immediately. His thumb hovered. Once I send this, he said, there's no soft reset. No, I said. He pressed send. The reply came quickly. Too quickly. Then maybe we don't want the same future. Not angry, not emotional. Strategic. He leaned back slowly, staring at the ceiling. She's not trying to fix this, he said. I didn't answer right away, because he needed to say it himself. She's protecting her version of the story, he added. His phone buzzed again, another message. I'll stay at my parents' for now. We can discuss logistics later. Logistics. The language had changed. He sat forward and rested his elbows on his knees. I thought if I kept upgrading everything around me, I'd feel bigger, but I felt smaller every time I said yes. There was no drama in his voice, just exhaustion. After a minute, he opened his banking app. Without saying anything, he transferred $200 to my account for the credit card. It wasn't symbolic, it was uncomfortable, and that made it real. His phone buzzed again, a notification this time, social media. He opened it slowly. Sienna had posted a photo, not of herself, but of a sunset from her parents' backyard. The caption, "Growth requires courage. Don't apologize for your standards." No names, no details, but the narrative was clear. He stared at it. She's already reframing it, he said quietly. I almost spoke, almost gave advice, but instead I just watched him. After a moment, he locked his phone without replying. That mattered more than anything he could have typed. The house grew quiet as evening settled in. Dinner went mostly untouched. He wasn't pacing anymore. He wasn't negotiating. He was sitting, which is harder. Around 9:30, I heard him upstairs in the guest room. No pacing this time, just stillness. Adrenaline carries you through the decision. It doesn't carry you through the night. And when the silence finally presses in, that's when doubt shows up. That's when memory softens the sharp edges. That's when you start wondering if performance was easier than truth. Downstairs, I turned off the lights and stood in the dark for a moment. Because tomorrow wouldn't be about the Audi, it would be about grief. And grief doesn't negotiate nearly as cleanly as pride does. It was quiet upstairs. Too quiet. Around 10:14, I heard the floorboards shift. Not pacing, not restlessness, just someone sitting down heavily on the edge of a bed. Adrenaline had carried him through the cancellation, through the message, through the performance of being steady. But adrenaline doesn't stay. Grief does. At 10:32, my phone buzzed. Not a call. A text from Connor. Are you awake? I walked halfway up the stairs before answering. Yes, I said softly. He was sitting on the edge of the guest bed, phone in his hand, eyes red but dry. I keep wanting to text her, he admitted. About what? I don't even know. Something softer, something that makes this less final. That was honest. I keep thinking if I explain it better, he continued, if I word it differently. Explain what? I asked. That I'm not small, that I'm not afraid, that I just don't want to fake it anymore. His voice cracked slightly on the last word. Fake. He stared at his screen. She hasn't posted anything else, he muttered, but people are already liking that quote. Ah, public narrative.
I keep imagining what she's telling her parents right now, he said. Probably that I panicked, that I couldn't handle growth. Does that matter? I asked gently. It shouldn't, he said, but it does. There it was. Not love, not money, reputation. I almost typed, "Can we talk?" again, he admitted, just to see if she'd soften. But you didn't. He shook his head. I don't trust myself not to backslide. That was the most self-aware thing he'd said all day. He leaned back against the wall. It feels like I jumped off something, he said, and now I'm waiting to see if I hit the ground. You will, I said quietly, but that doesn't mean you jumped wrong. He didn't smile at that. I don't know who I am without trying to impress her, he said. And that was the real fracture. Not the Audi, not the argument. Identity. He looked at his phone again. It would be easier to just fix it, he whispered. Yes, I said. He looked at me sharply, expecting contradiction. Easier, I continued, isn't the same as right. He stared at the screen one more time. Then he powered the phone off completely, not airplane mode, off. That cost him something. Downstairs, the house felt heavier than usual. He didn't come down for dinner. Around midnight, I heard the shower running upstairs, longer than necessary. When he came back down later for water, his eyes were swollen. He didn't try to hide it. I keep replaying the early days, before the upgrades, before the pressure. That's normal, I replied. I don't know where it shifted. It probably didn't shift all at once. It rarely does. He leaned against the counter. She said something else today, he added. What? She said she thought I wanted more. And do you? He didn't answer immediately. I wanted her, he said finally. That was the cleanest sentence of the night. We stood there in the kitchen, both of us quiet. Then his phone lit up on the counter. He hadn't turned it back on. It was just muscle memory. He reached for it, then stopped, pulled his hand back. That's going to take practice, he said. Yes, I agreed. The next morning would bring practical questions. Who moves out? What about the house? Shared accounts? But tonight wasn't about logistics. It was about resisting the urge to trade clarity for comfort. Before going back upstairs, he paused. If she calls tomorrow and says she wants to fix it, he began. Yes? I don't know if I'll be strong enough. That was honest. Strength isn't about not wanting to go back, I said quietly. It's about choosing not to. He nodded slowly and went upstairs. I stayed in the kitchen long after he did, because boundaries don't just change the child, they change the parent too. And tomorrow, the real-world consequences would start. Not emotional, financial, practical, irreversible. The next morning felt different. Not explosive, administrative. Connor came downstairs with a legal pad in his hand. I need to make a list, he said. That was new. Not panic, not pacing. Structure. What's on it? I asked. He sat at the table and started writing. House, joint accounts, car lease, insurance, subscriptions. Then he stopped. I don't even know what's in my own name, he admitted quietly. That was the first practical consequence. When performance drives your life, you don't always examine the contracts. By mid-morning, he had logged into everything. Joint savings with Sienna, shared credit card, mortgage under both names. She moved half the joint account this morning, he said. Did she? He nodded. She transferred her portion to her personal account. No drama, just action. And the house? I asked. She says we need to discuss whether to sell or refinance. There it was. Not emotional threat, financial reality. He leaned back in his chair. I don't want to fight over square footage, he said. Then don't, I replied. He looked at me carefully. Do you think she already talked to her parents about lawyers? Yes. He didn't argue with that.
By noon, he had emailed a financial advisor to schedule a consultation, not to chase growth, to understand stability. That mattered. In the afternoon, Sienna finally called. Not him, me. I let it ring twice before answering. "Dorothy," she said, voice controlled again, "I just want you to know this isn't what I wanted." I didn't respond immediately. "I encouraged Connor to aim higher," she continued. "I never meant it for it to fracture things." "Aim higher," I repeated. "Yes, we were building momentum." "Momentum toward what?" I asked calmly. There was a pause. "You wouldn't understand," she said softly. I almost smiled. "I understand perfectly," I replied. "We just define success differently." Silence. "He's choosing comfort over expansion." "No," I said evenly. "He's choosing honesty over performance." Her voice hardened slightly. "He'll regret shrinking." "I hope he regrets pretending," I said. She didn't respond to that. "We'll handle the house," she said finally. "I'm not interested in a drawn-out fight." "Good," I replied. The call ended without warmth. Connor watched my face when I set the phone down. "What did she say?" I asked. "That you're shrinking," I said. He let out a slow breath. "I don't feel like I'm shrinking," he said quietly. "I feel exposed." That was more accurate. That evening, he went back to the house for the first time since canceling the Audi. He didn't go to reconcile, he went to pack. 2 suitcases, clothes, laptop, documents. He stood in the living room for a moment, he told me later, looking at the furniture they'd financed together. It felt staged, like a showroom I'd been living in. He didn't take anything decorative, just what was necessary. When he came back to my condo that night, he placed one envelope on the kitchen table. "What's that?" I asked. "Mortgage statements. I need to know what I'm walking away from." "Not emotionally, financially." He sat down again. "I think we'll sell," he said quietly. "Too much house, too much story." And for the first time since this started, he wasn't reacting to her, he was deciding for himself. Before going upstairs, he stopped. "I don't want to stay here long," he said quickly. "Not because I don't appreciate it, because I need to stand on my own." "That's the goal," I replied. He nodded. That night, he didn't text her. He didn't check her social media. He didn't rehearse imaginary conversations. He slept. Not peacefully, but deeply. And that was the real shift. Because the first night is about adrenaline. The second night is about grief. But the third night, that's about adjustment. And adjustment is quieter than drama. It doesn't trend online. It doesn't post quotes about standards. It just builds something steadier. 3 months later, the house sold. 6 months later, he moved into a modest rental across town. 8 months later, he had paid me back $1,200. Not impressive, but consistent. Sienna never called again. She posted, she traveled, she upgraded. He stopped watching. I don't regret closing that account. Not for a second. Because I didn't lose a son. I gained an adult. And the Audi? It would have been replaced in 3 years anyway. Character. That lasts longer.